I'm not sure why my video is not showing. There's nothing to suggest why it shouldn't be. To everyone here, thank you very much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to be chairing this session. This session is all around creativity, technology and innovation, and it's been run by Create Central. And we'll talk a little bit more about who and what Create Central is in a minute. But before I do, not that you can see me, so again, apologies. My name's Nick Pinks and I'm the CEO of Covatic. And we are a boutique software company based in the Custard Factory. We moved from London about 2 years ago into the region. And we work predominantly with creative industries around personalization. And in addition to running Covatic, I'm also fortunate enough to be on the board of directors or the board of Create Central, and I chair the innovation working group. And so Create Central is an industry body whose members comprise some of the UK's most creative thinkers and change makers in film, TV, games, and other creative sectors. And as I said, we're here today to discuss ways in which creativity, technology, and innovation can really help take your business in a new direction, open up new opportunities, and foster cross-sector collaboration. So throughout today, if you hear, if you've got any questions at all, please do pop them in the message bar on the right of your screen, and we'll do our very best to answer them and prompt discussion. And I'm joined here today with a really phenomenal panel. I'm very privileged to know these three individuals and had the privilege of working with them over the last year or so. We've got Amrit, Mr. A. Singh, who is the creative director of Rebel Creatives and a prolific online influencer. Really interesting story and conversation I'm sure to have. We've got Fiona Latter, who is the Creative Enterprise Scale Up and Program Lead, which is a really incredible program run out of the West Midlands Combined Authority, which lots of interesting companies she's been working with. And we've got Taran Singh, who is the Director of Interactive 3D Design, doing an incredible amount of work with VR and AR. And again, will be very interesting elements of discussion. So I'll stop talking, and I'm going to hand over to the panel so they can do some brief introductions. And should we start with Amrit? We start with you.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is Amrit Singh. I am, as Nick said, the creative director at Rebel Creatives, which is a content creation agency and training provider based in Digbeth. I also run an international art brand and am a board member of Create Central. I love all things social media, digital technology, creativity, and epic beards, as you can tell. Thank you.
So let's jump to Fiona.
Hello everyone, my name is Fiona Latter. So I manage a programme for the West Midlands region on behalf of the Combined Authority called the Creative Scale Up Programme. So that programme was first launched in November 2019, and it's the first time we've ever had a dedicated business support programme to support creative businesses in the region, businesses that are looking to sort of scale up. So it's been fantastic. So we've supported over 94 businesses on the programme. And, you know, a lot of the themes that have come out of this programming include innovation, include kind of moving into new markets and kind of how to diversify existing products and so on. So we've had some fantastic successes from the programme that I look forward to sharing with you later.
That's amazing. I look forward to hearing more about them and discussing them. Taran, do you want to introduce yourself as well, please? Do we have Taran there by any chance?
You're on mute, Taran.
Hi.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so my name's Taran. I'm the director of Taran 3D. We're an interactive communication company, and we work with immersive technologies. We've only been going a short while. We started in September 2019. And on leaving work, I spent 10 years in engineering industry, working research and development in immersive technologies. And I became a member of the STEAM House. And very recently, I joined Fiona's West Midlands Creative Scale-Up program as well.
Amazing. So I'm going to start off with an open question, and really I'm going to ask all three panelists, how has creativity opened up new opportunities for you or the business you work with? And Taran, let's start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so I think primarily working with we work with heritage and engineering industries, and we work with a lot of businesses, large businesses that are very good at kind of programming side of things and developing their their CAD sort of offering. One thing that I found that they've been lacking is actually on the visual creative side, so making their stuff look good. So we've actually made a business over the past year of going into these businesses and being able to give them sort of that creative kind of sort of art direction with their technical CAD projects. So yeah, it's opened up many opportunities, and I think when we're able to show that we can basically take your boring CAD kind of technical concepts and turn them into really engaging, audience engaging kind of interactive, presentations. That is a really kind of compelling kind of offering, compelling kind of argument for large businesses. So yeah, we bring that sort of that creativity and that kind of visual eye to their technical projects, and it's kind of really opened doors for us.
When you I mean, it's really interesting, and I love the application of the creative tech that you've got to help other businesses unlock their business model when obviously they're trying to develop or sell and progress what they're doing. How do you when you approach these businesses and you go in there, what's your when do you see the penny drop from your point of view?
I think we see the penny drop when what we tend to do is when we go in, we tend to just listen to what it is that they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve. And then we've done quite a lot of work over the last year. And when we can show them those case studies of what we've been able to achieve with kind of, with figures and metrics, we can say, this is what you can achieve. And to be fair, yeah, when you've got really impressive visuals, it kind of speaks for itself. When we show them our show reel, or when we show them some of the work that we've done, they straight away kind of, it just clicks and they say, oh, so we can actually communicate our stuff so easily. Because especially during the COVID pandemic, it's been very hard for businesses to get either their customers to their environments or get their products to their customer. And we can do that, immersively through web, through mobile phones, through augmented reality. And that's what they're looking for people to be able to make a connection with their products.
And that's a really, really good. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more about COVID and the changing of people's business models. But James Elliott's just asked, thank you very much, asked a good question, which I think is very related to what you're talking about here. I mean, do you find that this is you pushing the tech, or do you find this is industry coming out asking, how do we get over these barriers and what can you bring to us?
Yeah, I think the tech's been there for the last 5 years now, and I think it's more businesses learning about this technology, and I think COVID has just accelerated that, because I mean, when we had the lockdown in March, we had our busiest month, and we haven't really let up since, because all of a sudden, for many years I've been talking about being able to communicate digitally, immersively, people using their own devices, but I think really the penny dropped in March, and yeah, it's more about businesses just learning about the technology. A lot of what we do is explaining what the technology can do and what it can't do as well. So we do try to manage those expectations with our clients. And I think once they understand what it can do, they're the best people who can kind of say, oh, actually, I think I can use it in this way, because they know their products better than anyone. And once we can kind of just kind of show them what the technology can do, they kind of usually pick up and run with it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for that. And I mean, I think Fiona, if we come to you next, I mean, I think Taran is going to be a really good example of the program and a company that, you know, has clearly been able to use creativity in tech and in such a positive way for other areas. But Fiona, have you got any other examples that you've come across with your program over the last 12 months or so?
Yeah, I mean, just to say, creativity is really the kind of golden thread that underpins everything that we've done on the Scale Up program, and it's been really important to me from the get-go that I've kind of encouraged, nurtured that creativity as much as I can. You know, sort of other Scale Up programs and business support programs exist, but what I've found with the businesses that I've worked with here is a lot of creative businesses don't kind of think in a linear fashion. You know, they don't sort of, so a generic business support plan where you're looking at growth and finance and so on and going through it in quite a systematic way hasn't really worked for these creative businesses. So it was really important to me that I engaged with them right from the get-go. So I organised a number of focus groups to really understand what the creative business was looking for, and then kind of adapted and streamlined the programme sort of according to that. So in terms of examples, we've had some really good successes recently, particularly with gaming businesses, sort of the, you know, the gaming cluster in Leamington Spa, looking at areas like gaming and healthcare. That's been quite a big, you know, interesting collaboration that seems to have come out in recent months. So we have a company that was on cohort 1, I believe, of our program. So they're looking at, so they're essentially a kind of learning platform. They're helping people to learn better through using gaming technology. So they're currently working with the medical sector to kind of embolden medical professions to kind of learn more effectively using gaming technology. So that's a really exciting project, actually. They're actually going through a funding round at the moment. So yeah, that's one example of someone that we've got. That's
really cool. I mean, this is an area I'm very passionate about, where you're using technology to innovate, and in doing so, you're obviously being very creative. And there's always two sides to the coin. I think you have a creative industry, the traditional creative industry, going, well, how do we go out to market to other areas? And then you've got industry in other areas going, well, how do we do this better? How do we grow our market piece? And it's the blending of the two that create this phenomenal incubating opportunity that we're seeing. And I guess, are you on the program seeing lots of cries from help from the industry that you're linking to, or are you equally seeing lots of creative industries going, gosh, you know, we can do more than just film? I don't mean just in a negative way, but we can do more in other areas.
Well, there have been some cries for help. Obviously, COVID has, you know, has impacted our sector, you know, significantly. There's no sort of getting away from that. So again, that sort of presents a challenge to a business, doesn't it? You know, if you're an established business, so, you know, whatever I plan to do in 2020, I'm not going to be able to do. So actually, let's go back to basics. Let's look at your business plan and your business model, and actually, are there other avenues and things that we can do? So again, if I give you an example, we had one lady on our program, so she ran music classes for children. So again, COVID hit, she wasn't able to do face-to-face classes. She's now moved to an online model, and in fact she's changed her entire business model, so she now has a franchise model, and I believe has just been successful in selling her first franchise. So that's an example of you know, not disaster, but you know, something happening that was unforeseen, actually presenting a new opportunity, and then enabling the business to move into that new opportunity.
Oh, that's really successful. I think BD Dalton, I don't know your first name, has asked a very good question as well. So thank you. Sort of asking, what is the biggest challenge to get industry to know they have a creative problem, or answering the problem? And I feel this is a question we'll come back to a lot in this session, is how do we get industry to recognize the value of creativity, and in doing so, realize that perhaps they've got problems that we can help with?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a big piece of work that we're doing, actually. I'll probably come on to talk about it later. We're looking at some kind of cross innovation strategies, but I'll chat about it later.
Excellent. And Amrit, let's go over to you and talk about some of the opportunities that you've seen around creativity and working with broader industry.
Yeah, sure. So creativity, I mean, has played a massive role in everything that I've done. I mean, from winning D&AD New Blood over 10 years ago and being thrown into the whole graphic design, branding and publishing and advertising world, really, there's been a strong growth in creativity. And obviously we know that the creative industries in the UK is significant, is massive, but is often overlooked as well. I think one of the things which I've been really excited about working, especially in the last 6 years of live streaming and working heavily within content creation, is the creator economy. And the creative economy has grown massively from the 90s with content creators or producers in TV, the mid-90s, to the era of YouTube in the early 2000s, to the era of short form video from 2010 onwards, you know, from TikTok and other platforms as well. So the creator economy is something which is huge. There's getting a lot of support from content creators and from other companies that we're working with as well, is how can we help young content creators from all backgrounds, all walks of life, make money, make a living out of content creation and provide content that is highly consumable, especially during the pandemic. So that's one side which I think is massively interesting, because it's using creativity and technology and an insane amount of views with people who are just at home. They don't really know what to do. You know, they're just watching and consuming a lot of content. And then there's a differentiate on how do we support content creators, not only with their monetization, but also their production of content, but also their mental health as well, which is really important, because a lot of these videos they go viral and there's not much support for young creatives to deal with that. The other side is working with young people on digital tech and digital skills, which we work with across the UK, and make sure that there's creativity which is at the heart of every type of skills that they're learning. So by the time they get to university or they leave university, they understand how integral they can be in every single industry that they can go into.
Absolutely, I think that's something that we at Create Central, and I know you champion very well, is around the youth development and how to engage. And in earlier sessions today, we've heard about the value of the youth in our social sort of space around the West Midlands, and why we are such a young and diverse population, which creates such a brilliant place to make innovation and to make tech work. And actually on that theme, Amrit, if I stick with you, one of the projects that Create Central and Coventry City of Culture have been working together is obviously Positive Realities, and you've been very involved in that program. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind giving us a quick intro to that program, and then perhaps some of the takeaways that you've had being part of it.
Sure, yes. It was definitely a pleasure to be part of Positive Realities. So I partnered up with a good friend who's also a board member at Create Central, Nigel Harris, who's creative director at Jellybob Limited. So we decided to kind of partner up and go and enter into Positive Realities. And what we were fascinated about, because both of us are new to this whole industry, but we're getting dragged into this industry more and more with all the content that we're producing. So we were just fascinated about being introduced to a brand new industry of immersive tech, from XR to VR to AR as well. And what we loved is last October there were workshops that we were introduced to. There were 3 workshops, and they covered everything from understanding what immersive is to games engine, health, well-being and mental health, which is very, very important to us. Diversity and inclusion in immersive experiences, which was fantastic. And then also capture technologies, co-creation, immersive technologies. One thing that I was fascinated by is having individuals who were thrown together and having this idea of collaboration. And I've not worked with Nigel before, but we learned so much during this process. And just like with any other project, the coming together of research, existing knowledge, curiosity, technical innovation, creativity, and delivery is I think an integral part of any project, and also the opportunity to fail. So I think Positive Realities is extremely exciting. I've learned a ton from it as well, and it's definitely been a pleasure to be part of it.
Well, that's really exciting, and I think any program where participants can come away saying that they've learned an awful lot in itself is fantastically beneficial for the region, for innovation. I mean, one of the things I love about innovation is you certainly don't know anything about it, and the moment you think you've learned it, you just realised that you don't know anything else to the right. It's always exciting the journey you go on, learning new tech and new ideas, and actually as part of that, you're saying, and I know Nigel's asked a question, we'll come to that in a little bit. He's on the group, so welcome, Nigel. You mentioned the collaboration that you had, and innovation relies on collaboration.
Yes.
It's the lifeblood of how it works. So actually, to that, I'm going to ask I'm going to start off actually. I'll ask Fiona. What benefits do you see across your program when you have this medley, this pot of potential collaboration?
Honestly, I could just give you so many examples. What I'd known, because I'd worked with creative businesses before, is just how much creative businesses love to collaborate. So, if I were to organise a workshop or a seminar, it's not just the learning that is gained from attending that seminar, but it's the benefits of businesses meeting other businesses and, often for the first time, and then exploring opportunities for collaboration. So again, try and give you an example. I've got one animation company that's on my program, and he met a marketing company. They've now set up a joint venture. I think they've got an exciting project happening with Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club. Honestly, I could probably give you about 8 or 9 different examples of just very nice organic collaborations that have happened during the course of this program. And in fact, we're running a session, an economy of hours session, I call it, later on in March, which is where businesses are able to kind of barter. They're able to give sort of 2 hours of their time in exchange for another 2 hours of someone else's time. And because I know the businesses on the program, I know how much they'll sort of get into that and really enjoy that process. And I've also had some bigger collaborations as well. So, for example, I've got a couple of trainers on my program who are from America. So we've actually been able to introduce some international collaborations into what we're doing on the Creative Scale Up program, particularly with partners from Seattle, Vancouver, and Malta. There's an innovation centre in Malta that we're working with, for example, where they're looking to meet businesses from the West Midlands, potentially with an intention to do some work there. We then actually run a return trade mission as well, where we invited partners from Seattle, Vancouver to have a look at what the West Midlands had to offer as well. So we've had lots of collaborations sort of across the board, really.
It's fantastic. I think collaborations is one of the ways in the digital economy that you grow business, whether it's just from an innovation point of view, but actually at the end of the day, generating revenue, creating the relationships that are going to create sustainable businesses and sustainable across the whole meaning of the word. So somebody's obviously been living this day in, day out. Taran, I mean, do you want to have you got any examples and do you want to feed into about collaborations?
Yeah, so just basically a link for Steamhouse. So when I left work, a bit disillusioned being in a corporate environment. Innovation doesn't happen as quick in a corporate environment, really. There's too much bureaucracy, it's too slow, they're not agile enough. And so I left and thought, maybe I could show them how it's done. So when I left, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I joined the Steamhouse in Digbeth. And the Steamhouse is basically a centre for innovation, creative thinking, prototyping, and business development. And it's run by Birmingham City University alongside Eastside Projects, who are like an artist collective. And basically what they do is they bring inventors, artists, entrepreneurs together to work together with digital technologies. They've got workshops there, and it's all funded by the ERDF. And it gives you a chance to kind of you have a common kind of working space, and the amount of cross-pollination of ideas, different people with different skills. It's the only place that you'd probably get somebody who's designing some furniture, coming across somebody who works in immersive technologies and saying, oh, well, I can show you what your furniture looks like in different situations. And then all these kind of collaborations hit up. So yeah, the Steamhouse is a brilliant place, and the application's really easy. All you have to do is be a business or a creative kind of sole trader or a maker or have an invention, and you can apply, and it's free membership, and you get really good business support. And I've got to say, the amount of confidence it gave me being a member of Steamhouse, because I had literally no confidence whatsoever, being around those people, getting the support, them believing in me, it kind of made me believe in myself, and kind of and I can also vouch for Fiona's program as well, because last year I became a member of the West Midlands Creative Scale Up. And again, yeah, the other creative businesses, and I think what's special about the creative scale up is that it's actually tailored to the specific problems and issues that creative businesses will come across, like she just said. And I've got to say, it's been absolutely amazing for us, because we've been able to see how other businesses are dealing with the same issues that we're having, but also kind of do business with them as well, for them to see what we can do. And so we're kind of working with animators who are on there. We're working with kind of like people who are working with medical imaging. We're able to put their stuff into 3D, into VR headsets. So yeah, it's all been absolutely fun. And what it's led to, what has been the outcome of it all, is that we've actually we went from a 2-person team to being a 7-person team. We've gained international projects from America and Canada, one long-term client, manufacturing client from America, and we actually won the Outstanding Business Startup of the Year from the Birmingham Chamber of Commerce in December for 2020. So I've got to say that, you know, all these kind of programs are there to help us, and they've been absolutely amazing.
That's fantastic. Well, massive congratulations on winning that in December. It's very, very cool. And actually, you know, we talked about collaboration. I think it's also quite interesting to talk a little bit about innovation. And I'm going to combine a couple of questions here. So Devon has asked, how do you define creativity, tech, digital, and innovation when you're speaking in cross-sector environments? Do you find that your definitions align with or diverge from business owners' definitions? Which I think is a really interesting question. There are lots of buzzwords that we throw together. And then as we're trying to understand more about this, how do we decide as businesses when it's time to try something new and innovate? Is there a risk associated with innovation? And I'm going to jump to Amrit. I wonder if you wouldn't mind having a go at answering some of these.
Sure. I think innovation is actually something which is pivotal in everything that we do, especially if we want to move with the times, you know. So one of the biggest things is, as a business, when you start to see things stagnate, you know, you want to start to innovate. And what innovation helps with massively is generating new ideas, improving processes, and especially developing talent. There is always a kind of a risk with innovation, but that risk shouldn't always be seen as a negative, you know, but be more of seen as an opportunity to learn quickly. We're working with a number of very innovative campaigns and also companies which are kind of pushing the creativity forward. For example, Collaborative Artists is a project that we're working with international artists from around the world on using digital technology to collaborate and create artistic experiences during the pandemic. And the theme has been isolation, and that's been absolutely epic. So it's the first project that has been created, funded by the British Council and Arts Council England, where we got random strangers from Birmingham, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and we brought them together. We got them to collaborate and talk to each other about how the pandemic has affected them. They created artwork based on each other's experiences, and all documented everything through short form content using different types of technology. And then that has been pulled together in a short film, as well as the final artwork, which is going to be launched this Saturday. So that, in terms of innovation, has been massive, because we've taken advantage of the fact that people are at home in front of their screens. But the fact is, like, creators and artists have struggled with articulating how they felt and how to deal with the pandemic. So I'm really excited to just do a lot more projects like that this year, working with creatives, and not just creatives, but also companies who can bring their insight of innovation and technology and create something which on a global scale will hopefully change the way we work.
Oh, it's really, really very cool. And we'll come on to a little bit later some of the tech actually that enables that. And perhaps you can talk a little bit how you were able to run and manage that collaboration, and where that came from. Fiona, should we jump to you and see if you've got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo Amrit's point, that of course there will be risk associated with innovation, but again, from that definitely comes an opportunity, and COVID, I think, has provided all of us with something none of us kind of foresaw really. But again, the opportunities to come from that, and the opportunities that come from doing something different and taking a risk are, you know, can really kind of outweigh that. So it's really something, and I think it's something creative businesses really embrace. You know, they're quite happy to, because that, you know, they have creative mindsets, they're quite happy to explore new areas and look at you know, exploring different ways of doing things. They're, you know, there's just an open-mindedness, I think, with the creative sector, with embracing that. And in terms of tech, yeah, it's, you know, it's a little bit of a sort of grey area. We use a term create tech, which is a term that's come from government, actually, which is our sort of definition of the creative businesses that we work with a sort of technical expertise. You know, Taran is an excellent example of that on the program. But there's, you know, there's so many businesses that you know, we've done that sort of work with, and we've kind of, you know, looked at that kind of tech and creativity and looked to bring that together. Yeah, I think from you know, adversity comes opportunity, and many businesses have actually been in the position where they've had to take a risk. It was either that or the business was just not going to go anywhere. And as I say, we've had some really nice success stories that have come from that. And you know, and I think that's what's been really good about the program. We've just kind of helped to keep people's spirits up to an extent. You know, when we were sort of in lockdown 1, and you know, there was a lot of uncertainty, and we meet regularly once a month with business coaches, and just really try to kind of, you know, talk to the businesses and get them to think about any other kind of diverse and innovative things that they can do with their business in order to move forward.
Well, that's really really cool and really good. And I think, you know, the pandemic has absolutely put a spotlight on innovation, and all businesses have had to look very closely at what their core business is about, if it's still relevant, and then how to evolve, which then opens the door for innovation and creativity to help progress them forward across the whole plethora of the gamut of our economy. So I think one of the tools to help do this, obviously, is the technology. And as a CEO of a software business, tech is my lifeblood, and I love it. But before I start throwing into it, I'm going to ask each of you, what new technologies are you excited about, and how do you think they can help push your work forward? And let's go to Taran first.
Yeah, so actually, I think with the technology side of things, you know, obviously we've got the immersive technologies coming up, but I think those are kind of quite well established, really. What I'm more excited about is actually seeing creative artists and, you know, inventors and sculptors, and seeing what they will do with the technology rather than actually the technology, because I think the technology is just a tool. But I'm more interested in, you know, what are these people going to come up with? And just yesterday, I mean, I interviewed 3 young, you know, artist students, you know, from the UK, and they've done these amazing, you know, they've been creating these amazing worlds using game engines and, you know, immersive technology, integrating it with social media. And so I'm more interested in what uses are going to come out of it, new kind of creative ideas. Because I've always say to people, I say, you know what, at the moment with immersive, I mean, the technology is there, it's not that hard to use, but it's an ideas game at the moment. Whoever comes up with the best ideas is going to crack it.
I agree with that. It makes technology is absolutely a tool, but there are some tools that are more exciting than others, definitely. So Amrit, what do you think?
Well, see, technology is something that I've always been excited about since day one. You know, from using live streaming for a number of years now to creating content through 360 tech. You know, for the last 6 years. But one thing I'm really excited about actually going forward, yes, we've got immersive tech as well, but is NFTs and tokenized versions of digital art and blockchain. Like, just that is something which is highly exciting. And also the fact that non-fungible tokens, NFT artworks, hit an all-time high of $8.2 million in December last year. So the growth in NFTs is massive, and the idea of pushing, using blockchain, your art and having it on the digital world is something which is really, really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm working with a lot of people and just talking about that and seeing how I can take my traditional physical art and put it on a digital world.
I think that's really cool. I haven't come across blockchain art, but that actually makes an awful lot of sense. The persistence of blockchain never going, and having the diversity would be really exciting. So that's something to certainly look out for and see where we are. And Fiona, I mean, how are businesses you're seeing using the technology to help them scale up? Fiona, you might be on mute.
Sorry, I'm on mute. So just to echo Taran's point, I think it's a lot of the technology is there or getting there now, but it's how you apply that technology. I think that's where the real magic happens. You know, that's where you get to see some of the real exciting things. So again, gaming and healthcare. I mean, healthcare is obviously just such a kind of, you know, prevalent topic at the moment. So looking at gaming technologies for how, you know, we can look at healthcare, and we can look at, you know, how to sort of implement new you know, health sort of related things, I think is really really important. We're actually running a pilot as part of our program, a cross-sector innovation session, of which we've actually got our session this afternoon. So we're looking at kind of manufacturing and technology businesses, and we're looking at the correlation between those. Oh,
I think we've just lost Fiona. 2 seconds if Fiona comes back. I think we've lost her. I'm sure she'll be back in a second. So just while we have a quick break, I'm actually going to follow on with one of Nigel's questions, who's asked me, how do I see the public service broadcast industry innovating and embracing new technology when they only just seem to be streaming HD, let alone 4K? Will 5G change this? I think it's a really interesting question, Nigel. I think one we've possibly discussed before. I think that, so my background was at the BBC Research and Development, and sort of the heart of the beast of their innovation area. And I think public service broadcasting is continually always trying to innovate. I think it is always looking at embracing new technology. But I think there's different elements to that story. So I think that when you look at BBC Three and you look at sounds and you look at all the different products that they're trying to release, there's certainly some really good innovation going on, but they're certainly not leading the way. I mean, if you look at technology that's really changed the way we have engaged with media over the last year, you're looking at TikTok, you're looking at social media, has had a much more powerful impression. And interestingly, that's not about resolution. It's not about HD, 4K, super high vision, or 8K or anything like that. It's about connectivity. And this is where 5G is really interesting. And the West Midlands is one of the hubs for the 5G innovation space. And I do think that 5G will enable an awful lot more connectivity, a lot more responsiveness to engagement. And so I think that it's going to pose some interesting challenges for broadcasters, content creators, and it's going to create opportunities for content creators. So I think that there's a lot going on. I would not be wedded to HD or 4K or a TV resolution. I think that we're moving as a society past that. I think it's more about engagement, but really, really interesting area. And it does demonstrate the challenge that the broadcasters like the BBC and ITV and the PSBs have, where they are stuck to, you know, making sure that the TV goes on at the right time and is playing out in the right format, and doesn't perhaps give the flexibility that new platforms are able to exploit. I'm going to, while we're waiting for Fiona to get back, there's another good question that Adam's asked. And oh, Fiona, you're back.
I'm back. just got back. That's great. Yeah, no, I was just trying to think what I was saying. Yeah, no, I was just talking about what we're doing this afternoon. So we're doing a session with manufacturing and creative businesses. And so what we've done is we sat down some manufacturing and creative businesses together, and we'd explored some challenges. So what are some challenges that are kind of relevant to both of your sectors? And you know, we've had a number of areas that came up. The big challenge that came up was digitization. So it was things like, you know, I'm a manufacturing company, you know, how do I digitize what I'm doing? How do I sort of make this sector more appealing to, you know, a future generation that's looking to work in manufacturing? You know, manufacturing is a real sort of it's almost the heart of the Black Country, really. It's kind of the Black Country and the West Midlands, really. It's a big sector that's just been here for a number of years. So digitisation and things like distance learning, that was another thing that came up from that. So if we're working from home, or if we're working in different places now, how can we still engage and do things in the workplace and so on, working in a different way and working possibly in a smarter way. So they were some of the themes that came out of those conversations, and they'll be explored in the session this afternoon.
Fantastic. It's really exciting, and I encourage everyone to go to that session, because it would be great to hear about. I do think that there's such a strong crossover, as we said, between creative businesses and manufacturing, the broader industry space, where we can really help each other out and see good growth. So an area that is struggling, there's a question which I'm going to pick up, because I think tech's possibly the answer here, that Adam has posed. Musicians have struggled during the pandemic. How will creativity, innovation and technology impact and grow the music industry in the West Midlands? And Amrit, perhaps you wouldn't mind having a crack at that. Any of your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So I actually disagree that musicians have struggled during the pandemic. If you actually have a look at what has been viral and trending, has been musicians sharing exhibitions and concerts from their living room. So go back to the idea of collaboration. I've never seen such the power in collaboration in you, and also in how clever the use of technology and live streaming is during last year. You have musicians from different parts of the world producing amazing music and composing different parts of the track from literally their sofas around the world. And also it's brought there was a video, for example, of a robot cellist playing like an eerie music of an Icelandic composer, and he went viral. It was using a robotic arm, and he was just composing music. And so just things like that, where people are taking advantage of this shutdown. They're in their own environment. Again, limitation creates creativity. Enhances creativity. People have really taken advantage of that, and also not just with the musicians, but the arts world. Museums have been closed down. So what have those majority of them done? They've created virtual exhibitions, where you could actually go around amazing mapped out version of their museum and see the artwork, read the descriptions, hear the perceptions of people about what the artwork means. But just kind of walking around a museum in your own living room through virtual reality or augmented reality I think is absolutely brilliant. So I don't think they've struggled. I think they've grown way beyond we thought they would grow if we were in the pandemic.
I think that's a really interesting take on it, and I think that in itself shows the power of innovation and creativity. That traditional business models, I have an art gallery, you come to art gallery, or I have a concert venue, you come to concert venue on a Thursday night to listen to the music, or however it is, to now being open to the individuals at any time, in any way, in any space. If I want to look at a gallery at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can, and go online and I can do this. And I think that there's a really interesting, for those businesses that have been able, those artists and those individuals who've been able to use the technology that's available and innovate on their own business model, as we talked about, have had some great opportunities. Taran, if you've got anything you want to add to this.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of like artists who have struggled through lockdown, because they can't get their work into exhibitions. So we've been looking at this. We actually worked on a 2-year project the last 2 years for creating a virtual reality museum. This is before the pandemic. And what we didn't realize was that we actually had a solution before the pandemic actually came. We had a lot of resistance from the heritage community in terms of, we don't want, we have museums and we don't need that stuff in VR. But actually, we've shown that actually it does work, and it can work, especially during a pandemic, because we can share our heritage objects on a mobile phone to anyone. They can view it in 3D. They can view it in augmented reality. But very recently, with some of the artists who were struggling, we actually created an online 3D exhibition that you can actually walk around and you can hear the voices of the artists. And that's going to be launched in 2 weeks. It's called the Hope Exhibition. And we've done that like just to help out our community. And I would say to the musicians out there as well, there's a lot of opportunities. I'm doing on the weekend, we've got an event with the Screen Skills, which is talking about people reskilling into different industries. So the immersive technology industry is booming at the moment, but 97% of companies working in the immersive field are aware that there's a lack of skills coming in. So we're actually the official partner of Tin Smart Social as a kind of a training partner for immersive technology. So we're trying to get people who are like into sound, spatial sound design, people who are set designers into 3D design. And, I think there's going to be opportunities there. And I think look beyond, see how you can transfer your skills over to those industries that are booming at the moment, because like everyone's been saying, during the pandemic, everyone's had to kind of pivot a little bit. So I think personally as well, I think there is a need for kind of especially music, especially now, there's a lot of opportunities out there, but we've just got to kind of pivot. Collaboration is key, being around other people, because what I found is it's very hard to do anything on your own. If it hadn't been for Steamhouse, if it hadn't been for the West Midlands Creative Scale Up, I don't think we would have got to where we are now. So yeah, definitely get involved and start collaborating with other people and just see where you can fit in and what you can do, because there's so many other skills you have that sometimes we overlook ourselves.
That's really, really helpful advice. I do think it's a really interesting, you have to stay true to your plan and your product, but staying positive about it and seeing that, there's always opportunities to evolve, and that can open many more doors, I think is a...
Definitely. I mean, Nick, I didn't really intend to become a VR developer or a 3D designer. I just wanted to lock myself in a garage somewhere and just do clay sculpting, because I'm a traditional sculptor. That's all I wanted to do. Wow. But obviously, because of need, because I saw the opportunity actually as a sculptor, I was actually really good at modeling and in architecture and modeling. So you can see that actually I didn't even see that future. I couldn't see that opportunity. But now when I see young people who are really creative, I can actually see you can draw. If you can draw, I know you can 3D model, and I know you understand composition and color and light, and so all your skills are transferable. Oh,
that's bad news. I'm an awful drawer. So never mind. I'm going to we're going to start wrapping up. So there are a couple of questions I think that we can combine together. So Paddy's asked, how do we use creative approaches to drive behavioural change? And James has mentioned that creativity covers everything from game design and coding to dance, music, and acting. Is it too wide? And I suppose the question I've got, I really want to make sure we've hit home, is what advice would you give to businesses to improve their creative innovation? And I think they're all very, very linked, those three. So perhaps in the next few minutes, we could go around and everyone can give a little summary of things that you think that would be really helpful for our audience to take away, and really see what can we do to really help continue this positive growth that we're seeing in creativity. And while we've got you on screen, Taran, let's start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I see, like most businesses out there, they don't really know that they've got a problem. They don't really see, and they're very scared to kind of invest in new technologies. You can mitigate the risk of innovation and creativity by phasing or iterating what you're doing. So we had a recent client, from Canada, who they're a wrap company, and they do wraps on big kind of, trucks and, fuel trucks. And what they were doing was they were presenting their designs, and they were finding it really hard to kind of get kind of okay on the design. And we were able to design their trucks, put their wrap on, and be able to kind of put it in VR so the client can actually walk around, and they got kind of okay in record time. So things like that, I think a lot of the time you're going to have to kind of go in, and companies are not going to innovate. You've got to show them the way, and that's what I would say to you. Create case studies, show them how it's meant to be done, and then go and present it to them, because that's the only way they're going to listen.
That's really good. So thank you. Let's jump over to Fiona.
Again, I would say, it's really about being open-minded. I think whatever kind of business sector you're in, to the possibilities of adapting more creative methods and how they can impact on your business and your business sustainability and, you know, ability to kind of move into new markets and so on. So I worked on a project a few years ago where I ran some sessions on innovation and creativity in business. And I used to do some quite wacky things where I would have, you know, I'd have a business problem and I'd ask everyone in the group to become a superhero, for example. So I'd, you know, one person was Batman, one was Superman, and so on. So it was, you know, how would Batman deal with this problem? How would Superman deal with this problem? And then I used to do things where you had a business problem and the solution to that problem that you'd had in the past. And then people would put their solutions in a bowl in the middle of the room. And at the end of the session, you would think about a current business problem and you would take someone else's solution and look at that and to see if that could be used with your current problem. And when I ran those sessions, I thought, you know, it's going to be sort of mostly creative businesses that would go in. But no, it was actually the construction guys, it was manufacturers, it was those kind of guys that were really open-minded to what could come from a session like that. And they sort of said to me, you know, if you know, I've been in business for 30 years, but I won't be in business for another 30 years unless I start to think more creatively. You know, I start to think about the long-term sustainability of my business and what I can do. So, you know, that open-mindedness is just really important, I think, for creatives and non-creatives if you're looking to build that sustainability, and thinking about constantly new creative strategies, new innovative practices. Be open-minded to chat to absolutely anyone about that sort of thing. You know, I think that's the key to keeping oneself in business, I'd say.
I agree completely. I mean, I'm definitely going to take away running Batman and Superman sessions with my team. I think that'll get on really well. I look forward to seeing how that works. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that, you know, you said, you know, I won't stay in business for the next 30 years if I don't, you know, if I don't look to what's coming up. And the last year has demonstrated to the world that everything we thought we knew absolutely can change. And if one positive outcome from a very difficult year is that businesses are more open to innovation and creativity, then I think as a sector we'll be in a better position, and I think actually as an economy will be an awful lot more stable. So let's hope that the people who do use this as the impetus to really look to creativity and innovation to help them. And Amrit, let's get your closing comments, thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. So my advice to businesses to improve their creativity and innovation, number one, is get an outsider to look at your projects and how you're working. I think a lot of us have tunnel vision when we're working on our business, and we only see what's in front of us or what we've already known. And when you get an outsider, you have a fresh pair of eyes, and all of a sudden they bring just so much, you know, innovation, and they'll rip apart everything. But that's a good thing, and that's what I love doing when I go in. I work as a design consultant for a number of companies, and you notice stuff as a creative that most businesses have no idea. So that's the first thing I would say. Secondly, encourage in-person collaborations. So not necessarily as in collaborating with other businesses, but collaborate with your teams. You know, I think a lot of businesses, they see people who work in the team as individual assets. You know, they've got one job and that's it. But what if you take one person who works in a completely different area and get them to collaborate with another person who works in another area and see what they come up with? I think that all of a sudden magic can happen. Thirdly, diversify your team. Hugely important. If you want innovation, you need people from all backgrounds, walks of life. Again, this panel is a perfect example. This is the first time in my entire career I've had a fellow Turban Sikh on a panel, you know, so this is a great thing, and we need more of this. People who are talented, who are from different backgrounds, who can bring new ideas and who can collaborate. And I'm sure we'll definitely be collaborating with Taran in the future. Other things is encourage people to take risks, experiment, and don't penalize them who fail. Don't penalize people who fail. You know, if your team fails, learn from the mistakes, move on, improve, and develop. I think experimentation is the key to improving creativity and innovation. And for me, the last thing I want to say is it's really, really important to share. And we've spoken about young people a lot, you know, teaching young people, but I think every single business should be thinking, how can they teach and inspire the next generation? You know, Gen Zs have really led the way during the pandemic. They've been doing some phenomenal innovative stuff, and so have millennials. So how can you work with Gen Zs? How can you use their creativity to really push your business forward and not bring them from the bottom up, but from the top down? That's what I would say.
That's really helpful, Amrit. Thank you. And I think, you know, almost all of that can be summarized by collaboration. If we have a really strong collaborative approach, we'll have outside input. If we're really good at our collaboration, we'll make sure it's a very diversified a group looking in and really getting the most out of it. So I think that's a really powerful piece to end on.